All right, let's try it.
Essential Sessions, an authentic analog experience.
Now we're going to have a workshop, a conversation with Austin's own homegrown Charlie Parr. Although I think he went by a different name when he was growing up here. He might talk about that. I don't know. And hosting this is Bill DeVille, who hosts United States of Americana, amongst many other shows at The Current. So give them a warm welcome.
It's nice to see you all here. Again, I'm Bill, and feel free to stick your arm up if you ever have a question along the way. And I think Charlie and I will just kind of chat about his career and this music he's been making now for, 30, 25, 20 years? 30, how long?
I don't know. I haven't had a job in 9 years.
Full-time musician.
But, I started trying to learn how to play guitar when I was 7, so somewhere in between 36 and 9.
Ah, okay. 36. All right.
I'm 46 now.
Okay, gotcha. So, okay, you said you started to play guitar at 7. What was the inspiration to learn how to play guitar? Was it the classic rock songs you probably heard on the radio? Or?
No, actually it was my dad's record collection.
Really?
It was, my dad had, mom and dad, but mostly dad, had the weirdest record collection. Everything from Sing Along with Mitch Miller to Lead Belly, and I heard a lot of different, mostly, he liked acoustic music. It was folk music and blues and country western, old country western. And I listened to those records, and I heard Mance Lipscomb and Lightnin' Hopkins and Albert King, and all I wanted to do was play guitar like that. Especially that Mance Lipscomb record. I've still got that record, and it's still, I put that record on, and I still want to play guitar like that. It's very frustrating.
Have you ever been able to figure out the science of how he actually did it?
Oh, yeah, now you can watch movies of him.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't help because, there's something else that goes on there. Guys like Mississippi John Hurt, you can watch him play, and I hear a lot of people, yeah, they can play all the notes, but there's something else there that's missing now. And so, I found that after my dad passed away and I started writing my own music, I kind of found, in a way, what was missing by making my own sounds and not trying to, be able to play. So I can play every song on that Mance Lipscomb record. I can play them backwards, but I can't play them really,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you think, had it not been for your father, do you think you would have crossed paths with the blues somewhere along the way?
I don't, not those artists. Blues is not blues, Blues is like old-time music. It's very much tied to a region, And people who say you listen to blues, sometimes they mean you listen to this electrified Chicago blues, and sometimes they mean they listen to the Texas kind of blues rock sound, sometimes they mean they listen to the Piedmont or the country blues or North Mississippi style.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have come across the kind of music that lit my particular fire, which was mostly from the Piedmont, without those records.
I was going to say that some
At
people...
least then. I might have come across it later, I hope
Yeah.
so, but,
I was going to say that some people think that blues is the music you hear in the Viagra commercials on TV. It's how So you've been making albums then, originals and covers now for you've got a fleet of albums already, don't you?
I recorded kind of the first time in '99,
Mm-hmm.
and almost every year since then.
Now, is it a mix of originals and covers?
Mostly originals. I think the pattern for me has been, for every album I kind of have, I've generally, grab 9 or 11 of my own songs and 2 traditional songs that I've been messing around with.
Mm-hmm.
With a few exceptions here and there, but that's kind of been the general pattern. And the traditional songs are songs that I really feel like I have something to, throw in there, that I've everything that I learn, you know, gets kind of, because I'm self-taught, everything that I'm
Yeah.
learning gets churned up and spit back out again with all the mistakes and the kind of the gory kind of dysfunction that I am. That music comes back out with all that attached to it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if I can disable a song that I learned that way, then I feel like I'm eligible to record it.
Mhm. When you're done with the process of making an album, do you listen to it and do you become a critic, or do you smile and say, I did good here, this is what I was shooting for?
No. I just try to forget that it happened.
You just move on and never look back, huh?
Yeah. Because you can tell. I mean, if you're doing it, I mean, songs aren't ever done. They're never written.
Yeah.
They're in progress, you know. And the recording is like a show. I don't like recording studios. I don't care for all the kind of machinery around recording, and so it's like a show for me. You know, we don't do tracking. I don't do takes. We just go in there and we play like it's a show, and everything that is there is just going to be there. And I know at the time it's good or it's not good. If it's not good, we pack up the guitar and go home and try it again another time. And if it's good, I figure it's good right then, and so it's good. And then I can leave and I can be fine, and it's out and it's fine, and I don't have to hear it again because the songs have now moved past that spot and moved into a new spot where I have them with me.
Yeah.
And the songs that were left on the recording are now somebody else's. I sound completely insane, don't I?
I don't think so. A bit of a mad scientist, but that comes with the territory.
Well, that's what works. I mean, that's what makes me feel good about making music, is that, you know, nothing lasts.
Yeah.
It's you know, you at the base of it, making music is just like pushing air molecules around, and then they go back to where they were, you know, and you've got nothing. There's nothing there, and so, you know, the best music for me is like that. And if the tape happens to catch it, then that's really, really good, and I'm happy about that. And I stand behind the records I made, and I'm proud that I got to make them, but I'm definitely not going to listen to them again, because the songs that are on those records are now in a different form with me.
That makes some sense. Was the most pleasurable experience you had making the album, and was it your garage or friends in Duluth? A few
Oh,
years
that was
ago?
fun. Yeah, that was my Dave Hunderizer. He lives a block away, and he's a really good harmonica player. He's
Yeah.
a freight train engineer, so he learned how to play the harmonica on the side.
On the train.
Yeah,
Wow.
he carries one with him all the time. And so he bought a house, and this garage is really, really nice. It's kind of half finished and all this crap in it, but we decided to record the record there, and we had all these big plans. You know, he brews beer, and we were going to have a big party, but he couldn't get his pickup started, so he couldn't move the boat out of the garage.
Oh, so the boat was in there too.
So the boat is in there, and because the boat is in there, like half of it, and then all this other crap is in there.
Yeah.
But when Herbers and Larson came up and looked at it, they said, no, it sounds really good with all this junk in here. If you moved the junk, it wouldn't sound this way. So we recorded.
Just kind of left it.
Yeah, and we were all like huddled in there next to the boat, and it was March, and for some reason, it got up to like 65 degrees. So we threw open the door and recorded most of it in the afternoon with the door open.
You got some nice ambient noise, if I remember.
There's some
too.
birds in
Birds
there,
singing
yeah.
and stuff.
And Bobby Olson, who's a guitar player, he was encouraging his child to run up and down the alleyway in his go-kart. So there's a little bit of that.
You can hear that too. So when did you know, Charlie, that you wanted to pursue this music full time, and you wanted to, spend your life with a guitar in your hand or a steering wheel in your hand, and that's about
Both.
Yeah, or both. Yeah.
I didn't. The career part of it, I still not really sure about that. But
Yeah.
The guitar part, I was pretty positive from the moment I managed to make the few sounds that I wanted to make, that was going to be part of my life no matter what. And it is, still. I mean, Emily, my wife, said to me just 3 days ago, she said, look at what music has done to you. It has ruined your health and destroyed a lot of your relationships.
You're still married.
Yeah. But but her point was, you know, it's the happiest thing that you've ever done in your life.
Yeah.
It's the thing that when the bottom falls out of this, you know, and it will, I will still, you know, be sitting in the kitchen playing my guitar, and I'll still be as happy as ever about it, because that's the thing that I wanted. The career part of it,
Yeah.
you know, is confusing and contentious, and sometimes that's really hard for me.
Yeah. Well, the thing about being a bluesman, I mean, B.B. King, granted, I've read some stuff about his shows that they're not that, I mean, he did 3 songs that he sang the other night, but he has his full band still, and he's still on the road. Willie's on the road after 80.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people, you know, when you're playing kind of rootsy music, you can kind of age with grace. I mean, John Lee Hooker performed until the end. And
I had the huge honor of having Spider John Kerner on the stage with me at the Cedar a couple weeks ago. He's just turned 75 years old. He doesn't have to take his shoes off at the airport anymore.
Did you get a waiver when you're 75?
Yes, you do.
I had no idea.
That's what he told me.
Really?
And
You see
he
the
is
75 and you're good to go.
75, and he's better than ever.
I've seen him before too recently, and he sounds just awesome.
Yeah.
He's got a great voice, and I just love his guitar style playing.
Oh God, he's a cipher.
Yeah.
He's an absolute cipher.
Have you ever kind of hung around the West Bank or in Dinkytown and think, oh, this is where Spider John and
When I
and
first
everybody hung out, and Bob and Glover and Ray?
yeah, I left Austin right after the strike, and I moved to the West Bank, basically.
Mhm.
And I had there used to be a big gray rooming house kind of next to and beside the Mixed Blood Theater,
Mhm.
and they rented rooms for $60, and I got a room there. And on Thursday, I went downtown to Nicollet to see Dave Ray and Tony Glover play at the Times. And Friday, I squeezed into the old 400 bar so I could see Willie Murphy play.
Sure.
Saturday, there was any number of people playing around, Dakota Dave Hall or Pete Rikus or just you name it. And then Sunday at the Viking bar was Spider John. And I was in heaven, and I did that for I don't know how long until that kind of whole scenario kind of broke apart. But
Yeah.
I was there, and too chicken to talk to any of those people, but I just sat there and ate it up, you know.
Yeah. So are you and Spider John buddies now then, or you could?
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm still the same kind of awestruck kid that I've always been around people like that. But yeah, he's been so gracious and kind to me. He's an amazing guy.
Mhm. Do you practice? I mean, you do so many shows and stuff, but do you sit around and just kind of practice playing and
Yeah.
learn
Oh yeah.
new different techniques to play,
You
you know,
have,
slide?
I think
and
you
whatnot?
have to. I mean, I want to. You know, it's all I want to do is play. But you know, I guess if I wanted to play the same kind of 9 songs over and over again, I might not practice. Or if I had some kind of, you know, if I were more of a kind of a prodigy, but I'm not. I practice kind of a lot.
Mhm.
Nowadays, you know, I felt kind of guilty because Emily teaches school, and the children are now in school, and we had such a nice summer. You know, we went biking and did all kinds of crazy stuff, and then the first day of school came, and they got on the bus, and I went back in the house, and it's just me and the dog,
Yeah.
and it was like the best day. And I played guitar for like 5 hours, you know, and then I looked up at the clock, and I'm like, oh my God, and nothing's done. There's like crap
Yeah.
hanging from the walls, and you know, and all she wanted me to do was like take care of the laundry and tidy up the house, and it was worse than ever, you know. I don't know how it got that bad. And so I was tearing around, getting everything in shape before she got home, and then I acted like I'd had a terrible day. So. But yeah, I practice, and I try to, you know, mostly nowadays what I'm interested in right now is my own sounds. I just finished recording an instrumental record with Alan Sparhawk, and you know, worked really hard on stuff like that. But I still, you know, you still get, you know, hooked into. There's records that I've got that I put on, and like I never really noticed that track before, that thing before. There's some weird little lilt in there that I wanna. And you get the guitar and you sit down and you feel like you're 7 again in front of the speakers, trying to find where the guitar lives in relationship to what you're hearing from the speakers. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now let's take you back to Austin. how did the childhood in Austin shape the music that you, besides your father, how does it shape the music that you play today, or does it?
Well, I think it does. I mean, when I was coming up, my friends all kind of wanted to play something. It was kind of, you were playing music, or I guess maybe you were playing sports. I don't really know. Most of the people I knew were playing music, and I think the thing it gave me was this, an intense kind of interest in it. You did it you did it a lot.
Yeah.
And I've still got that. I feel like it's a drive that I guess I could attribute it to Austin or the environment that I grew up in, because it's never gone away.
Yeah. Did the kids in the neighborhood think you were cool because you played guitar, or did they? Who's that?
I don't think anybody's ever mistaken me for cool. I mean, we were all. I mean, my neighborhood was. We were all buddies. We rode our bikes together,
Yeah.
and played a little. Some of us played music together, or tried to play a little music together. I was the kid on the block that listened to music that a lot of other kids didn't listen to, but that's just because of my dad's kind of different collection of records. But they would come over and listen to it, and they'd be like, "Wow, I never heard anything like that before." And we'd talk about it, or read the like folkways kind of information about it. And I liked other kinds of music too, except for the weird AM radio stuff my sister liked. I did not like this Afternoon Delight song.
Yeah, that
irritated me to
Yeah, that was a brutal one.
But
I don't blame you for that.
Oh, she loved that song. She would
Yeah?
sing that. So yeah, I mean that was different about me, but I was generally just a nerdy kid with a schwinn, much like everybody else.
Sure. Did you leave Austin for the Twin Cities for more music opportunities? Were there music opportunities here in Austin?
No. Well, I mean, there might have been, but not for what I was doing. I mean, my first gig was at Lefty's in the early '80s, playing with it was a friend of mine played in a country band, and they were doing really pretty well, getting the dancers out at Lefty's, and said, "Oh, come on down and take kind of this middle set. We want to take like an extended break. You play for like a half hour. It'll be great, And I had this old dobro and a real intense respect for Son House at that time. So I'm down there, and my set inspired like a bar fight of people who did not want to, hear what I was doing, and a couple people who did. And then the waitress came over and asked me to leave after I'd played 1.5 songs.
Oh, was that the end of that?
That was the end of that. So.
Yeah.
But no, I left town just because you leave town where you grow up,
Yeah. So you were in the Twin Cities. How many years did you live there then before you moved up north to Duluth?
15, maybe. Something like that. I mean, 99 is when I moved to Duluth, so maybe a little less than 15.
Yeah. So what was the inspiration to move north to Duluth then?
Well, I gotten married, and we just couldn't afford to live in the cities because I think it was obvious from a long time ago that I wasn't going to be successful at much of anything. So making any money was probably out of the question. So we wanted to move somewhere we could actually afford to live and just do what we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, Duluth was a good bet.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to Duluth, and we both found work and was able to buy a house for like a quarter of the cost of what it would cost in the cities. Now, Duluth is getting a little bit more expensive, but
Yeah. And do you still do that weekly gig there?
when I'm in town,
Yeah.
I play at the Brew House every Wednesday that I'm in town.
Yeah. How many gigs do you suppose you do in a year? Do you get up over 200?
I don't know. When I'm not on the road, I play 3-4 nights a week, and when I am, I try to keep it up to every night that I'm out, because like these guys were saying earlier, it's just too expensive now to go.
Yeah.
And I'm alone, so I've got it better than most. I have very little overhead, and I'm trying to keep my health together so I don't, go boozing or smoke drugs or anything like that. So I tend to just kind of stay to myself and, live in the truck and eat out of the grocery store. And
So you don't do hotel rooms very often and stuff?
no,
huh?
no.
Yeah.
Those are so expensive.
Yeah.
I have a little cooler I carry. I take everything for free. If someone says, hey, I got some leftovers, I got the cooler right there.
Yeah.
There you go. And that's just the way it's been.
How do you deal with, you know, the constant rigors of, you know, being away from home and being on the road and logging all these dates and?
I don't know that I do. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, obviously I'm not
Yeah.
quite right anymore,
And one thing that you've done that's kind of cool, you've been doing it on a regular basis now, is you go over to Europe, huh?
Yep, I got well, and that's a really weird fluke, because there's a woman from Duluth who married a man from England and moved there with him, and he was starting a fledgling record label, and their first release, because she was from Duluth, their first release was a low 7-inch,
Oh, sure.
which, you know, low in England, you know, equals God, so.
Yeah, their first album came out on a British label.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
then they came over to Duluth to visit. They ended up at one of my shows, and so they released. Actually, my very first record that I recorded was released in England at the same time as it was released by a little tiny record label in Duluth.
Mhm.
And I toured right away as an opening act for the Black Eyed Snakes for Alan's side project.
Sure.
And it went really, really well. And I've been to England about a dozen times, and Ireland, and then Europe a handful, 6 or so.
So it's kind of a yearly thing to.
Just
to-
about.
Yeah.
Some years is 2 or 3. I mean, there's certain festivals that I, you know, will go back for.
Yeah.
every year.
Oh, when you're like going to Europe and stuff, are you ever, you know, able to bring your wife and daughters along with you, or?
No, not really. I've done that occasionally when we've kind of made a decision that this is going to be more of a vacation than
Yeah.
it is, you know, anything else. But you just kind of, you know, if you don't have the money for it, you almost can't.
Mm-hmm. I know it came up in the last session about, you know, house concerts.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do many of those sort of things?
Well, if people let me in their house, I'll play in there.
It's probably a nice deal, huh? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you can just play your guitar, have a, you know, I hear the food's always great at people's houses.
Food's always great. I mean, you get a place to sleep, and I haven't done a lot of them, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but I have done a few, and I've always had good experiences.
Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for a youngster who wants to be a musician? What's the, you know, what advice would you share with them? Don't do it?
No, definitely not to don't do it, because
Yeah.
you got to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know, because I'm sure that my career is more like kind of like a balled up Kleenex in a windstorm than anything else.
Yeah.
I have been in the right place at the right time far too many times, and it's been a complete accident.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I've kind of done on purpose is I play all the time. I just don't want to do anything else. I'm extremely lazy and unemployable. And all I want to do is play the guitar. And when I was starting out, and people would say, hey, you want to play this gig? I'm like, yes, of course I want to play that gig. It doesn't pay anything. I'm like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
Play the gig. And I'm, you know, now things are going really well, and I've been extremely lucky, like I said. And I've got, you know, this guy telling me now you can't like oversaturate your market or whatever. And I'm like wanting to play anyway, so.
Yeah. Well, if you oversaturate the market, you end up playing for less money. Isn't that kind of how it
That's
works?
kind of how it works, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, you know, those kind of lessons are lost on me sometimes because of that, you know. And what it did for me in the beginning that now is kind of having an opposite effect. In the beginning, I played so much that it was almost, if you like me or not, it was hard to avoid me in Duluth because I played everywhere. And a guy even came in one day, he was coming to see the Black Eyed Snakes. He's like, what are you doing here? Like, playing the guitar. It's like, God, you were just down the street, man. And so, you know, I just played so much that people, you know, finally just accepted me because of what they were going to do, you know.
Have you made a conscious effort to play less? I mean, have you ever had taken a proper, you know, 2-week vacation where you said, I'm not doing a gig for, you know, a couple
I did.
weeks?
I had, like I said, I had, in 2010, I had some health problems, and I ended up having to cancel a pretty large European tour and a bunch of domestic dates and just stop, you know, for a minute and try to get myself back together again. But that didn't feel like a vacation. It felt horrible.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
being, and of course I didn't stop playing the guitar, and I've done permanent damage to my hand and arm because of that. But
How do you fix that? Just by stopping, you know?
no, there's no. I mean, I've got arthritis throughout my neck down to my hand now. I've got tennis elbow tendonitis.
Mm-hmm.
These tendons all have repetitive stress in them. I think I have carpal tunnel, but I've got arthritis throughout my knuckles. So when I first started playing the guitar, the way I play finger style kind of guitar. My pinky finger would rest on the top of the guitar, and I would pick with these 3 fingers and my thumb. And so I played all the time. That's all I did. I never played with a flat pick. And so obviously the repetition of that started to destroy the tendons are like old rubber bands now. So now I'm down to this finger and my thumb. And these fingers have what they call trigger finger, where they do this. If I don't force them out, they stay in like that. So
Sure.
eventually, I suppose I'll just have my thumb, and then I'll just kind of.
You just have a way of adapting, though, huh? I mean,
I sat down and I kind of relearned parts, because now that my pinky won't stay on the guitar anymore because it won't stay straight. I don't have to touch the guitar, so I've actually started playing a little faster because I don't have to touch the guitar.
I mean, you heard the Billy McLaughlin story. The Twin Cities guitar player learned how to play, upside down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I think that's the thing. I think if music ignites that kind of fire in you, that you will, Leo Kottke,
Mhm.
overcome those kinds of things rather than quit because there's not much else for you
Mhm.
to do.
Does anybody have any questions for Charlie?
I have one. I just was curious as to how long it takes you to write a song. And, I mean, I suppose it's different every time.
I think it's different every time.
Mm.
I mean, there's some things that, and I don't really think of myself as being like a songwriter, really. Things come up and I write them down. There was one song that I wrote that my mother kind of made fun of me because she listened to it and she said, "You didn't write that, you just wrote it down." I mean, they come out in different places, and sometimes I actually have something that I want to have happen with a song, and I sit down and kind of fuss with it, and it just doesn't go, and then I'll leave it, and a week later it'll show up, and I don't know where that is or where it comes from, but it never really seems like it takes that long. When it comes up in your head and you have some way to sit down with it for a minute, it'll show up. If it comes up and I'm trying to make lunches for the kids, and they're there, and they're saying stuff, and the dog is over here, and somehow there's other things going on, and the telephone rings, and you can't take a minute, and then you get scared that it's going to go away, because you don't know where it came from, and you don't know what created you to have that happen to you. That causes me some tension. But
So you prefer to record live then?
I do.
Over than...
Yeah. I mean, and I hate to say anything bad about studios because I've been in some good studios, but for the way that I play, it's a lot of money, and it's an atmosphere that I didn't necessarily have anything to do with. And so I will usually find a studio that I feel comfortable with, there's a few of them, or I'll find a place that I like, and my friend Tom Herbers, he's got all this gear that's relatively portable, and we go there and set things up, and when you feel comfortable, you can sit down and play. And I play live to usually tape, but and just kind of go.
So I've recorded just with not live, but I want to do live, but people have talked me out of doing live. So most of your albums are
All
live?
of them are done that
All
way.
of them.
I haven't tracked anything that's been released. There's been 2 instances where I've tried to do it in kind of a normal way, and I mean, it's a failing with me. It's not a failing with the studio, or engineers. It's a failing in personally that I can't do it that way. And so I found alternatives. You know, we've used everything. You know, Herbert's actually borrowed from Mankato this beautiful 1920s era RCA ribbon mic that looked like a number 10 can with a bee helmet stuck on the top of it. And we did like a mono recording that they would have done in the 20s when this microphone was the state of the art, where we mixed in the studio. There's no mixing. It's one track and a single track reel to reel that had tubes in it. And we experimented all day until we found where everybody, the few of us, it was me and two friends, needed to sit to make the mix work. And then the next day we came back and just sat down and played a show to this gigantic weird microphone. And then we sent it off to be mastered, and it was, you know, it's still, I mean, people, you know, we sent it to radio stations in Ireland who called me up and said, "What is wrong with this recording?" Like, "What are you talking about? Is it mono?" Like, "Yeah, it's mono." Like, so they, you know, that's something that you don't see anymore. So that got me into all kinds of trouble. But, you know, I was comfortable and I was happy, and the songs came out the way I felt like they should come out, and that's the point. You know, that's the thing I was after. I want that stuff to work.
Any other questions? Ellen?
Given that for you it all started with the guitar, but you know these days you're bringing up the banjo a little bit more often, does that have something to do with the, do you find it easier to play the banjo given your arm situation, or is it the same problem?
I can't play the banjo.
I've seen you play the banjo.
And the banjo
I've seen
was
you
part
play
of what
banjo.
ruined this whole thing, because I was trying to do the sawmill, you know, which is a relative of claw hammer. You use two fingers and you're up picking, and you get this thing going, you know, and it's crazy sounding, but it ruined my elbow after about 2 years of being obsessed with that. But I've been obsessed with the banjo for a long time too, from listening to Doc Boggs and Roscoe Holcomb and guys like that. But you know, and occasionally, I now I've re-leveraged kind of the way I play banjo, because I can't do that anymore. I physically cannot do that style anymore. And so I sat down at one point. I thought, I'm going to put the banjo away for about 6 months, and I missed it. You know, I missed that sound. There's a distinctive weird thing. And I got out my Doc Boggs records, and I sat down again, and I said, I'm going to figure this out. You know, listening to Doc Boggs is like eavesdropping at the gateway to hell, you know, and that banjo sound is part of that thing, that atmosphere he created. So, but no, the banjo is actually makes it worse, but I can't stand not having one around once in a while. So. I'm on another banjo break now because I'm not taking one to Australia, so I'm weaning myself off.
When you travel, does the seat next to you get a guitar, or do you stash it somewhere?
Check it.
Yeah.
I gave up. I
Yeah.
totally gave up. I flew with instruments in a bag, you know, like not even like a guitar bag, but just like a sack stuffed with clothes and a guitar. I'm like, oh, this is not a guitar. It fits in the overhead, man. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
And you know, we get it taken away occasionally, and I play, you know, steel body resonators guitar, so they're relatively bulletproof,
Yeah.
but they're not, you know.
Mhm.
And the last straw was in Australia. Actually, I was flying from Brisbane up to Cairns, and they took it away, and I just, oh God, and it came out the other end with like a suitcase on top of it,
Oh no.
you know, and it was broken, but it wasn't broken so bad I couldn't play it. It was, you know, Nationals are funny. Nationals are built like big steel banjos. The neck goes all the way through the body,
Yeah.
and there's a sound well for the resonator cone, and it had broken inside the body. The neck had broken at the dowel point. So what I did was I wired that point together, and then jammed a bunch of popsicle sticks underneath the, because there's a sound post,
Yeah.
like in a fiddle,
Mhm.
and I jammed a bunch of popsicle sticks under the post, and I played it for a few gigs, and then took it apart, redid that, and I played it again, and took it apart and redid that until I got home, sent it to National, and he fixed it. Don, the guy that runs National, is so kind to me, and he fixed it, and he sent it back, and I opened the case, and there's a little baggie filled with broken popsicle sticks and wire. Just in case, I guess. But
Sure.
so ever since then, I I bought a flight case, not a real good one, but a good enough one, and I pack around the headstock with underwear and socks, and then I let it go.
There you go.
I turn it in and say, well, it's just a thing, you know. It's not what makes the music. It's just something else. And when I turn it over to the baggage handlers, I decided it's not mine anymore. And if it shows up again, then it's like that poem on the wall of the office worker, you know. That
Yeah.
If it wasn't meant to be.
Mhm. One thing I saw, I actually played it on the radio the other day, was a remix. Martin Dosh did a remix of one of your tunes. That had to be his idea, not yours, am I right?
It was Bob's idea from the Fetus.
Bob Fuchs?
Yes.
Yeah, wow,
Yeah, it was cool.
yeah. What do you think of it? Did you like the
I
idea?
liked it. Yeah, I liked
Yeah?
it a lot. I mean, you know, it's kind of an exciting time right now, I think, because I'm not a purist. I'm just a doofus. But, you know, there's
Not a purist, a doofus.
right. There's all this stuff out there. And the rules are now gone,
Yeah,
so we can go ahead and play. And we can mix up everything now. Because we can. It doesn't matter anymore. You can mix up what you're doing with a thing that someone else is doing. And I
Yeah.
think there's been a lot of guys like Beck that have done that, and it's fine now, you know. So,
yeah.
you know, having music kind of go through that kind of gyratory is I think is really good.
So we can expect some dance mixes of Charlie Parr songs?
No, absolutely not. Not that I'll be able to do. I mean, I'm a one-trick pony. I can do what I do. But I was thrilled that Martin was going to do that, and I liked the result.
Yeah, maybe again? Never say never?
Never say never.
Yeah. I would also guess that you're probably exclusive to vinyl only. Not true?
No. I like vinyl just because that's what I've always listened to.
Yeah.
And still do. I don't have a CD player because Tallulah stuck food in the CD player.
Oh, that's no good. She closed
The good thing was
Yeah.
she had an annoying CD of novelty hits of the 70s,
Yeah.
which was good like the first 2 times, and the second 30th time or so it was really not good anymore. And she opened it and then stuffed something in there, like a piece of bread, and then jammed it shut, and it was
Little kid's
but
toaster,
the
huh?
CD's in there and it's not coming
It's
out.
not coming out.
So I listen to records at home, but my kind of take on that is any way you can hear the music is a good way to hear music. I mean, the science of it is MP3s don't sound as good as vinyl. That's
Right.
just the truth. But
But you can't listen to a record, you know,
In
when
your car.
when you're logging miles on the road.
exactly, I want to
Yeah.
hear music, and the way I hear music is the way I hear music. You know, I want to hear it. I mean, the best way to hear music is live.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
that's just the way it is. Or the best way to hear music is when you or your friends are playing it. But yeah, I don't have any. I'm not married to it. The instrumental record I just finished is on digital. It'll end up being DAA because we're dumping it onto tape and then doing old school vinyl mastering.
Kind of the Neil Young method there or something,
Yeah.
huh? Yeah. Any other questions in the room? I guess she's got one more.
You mentioned that you do some covers and some original, or mostly originals. How do you go about recording a cover without getting into trouble? If that's the
Most
case?
of the songs that I'm really interested in covering fall in the public domain.
Okay.
Is that a 50-year window on that, or is that
75.
75? It used to be 50, didn't it?
It's 50 in the UK.
Oh, okay.
But and I mean, you can go ahead and pay the mechanicals too and cover any song you want. You just have to go through the process is all. And I mean, it's fair play. It's but so far the songs I've covered have almost all fallen into the public domain category except for a few, and we've found the right way to do it because I don't want to come back and get into trouble.
Best to do things legally, or it'll come back and get you.
Well, I guess I think I think about it in terms of if I was ever in a position where someone wanted to cover a song of mine, it would be nice to have a clue.
Yeah,
So
it's all about karma.
it is.
It'll come back and get you.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I think that's about it. We good there?
Yeah,
Al?
yeah. Well, thanks again for coming out. Big thanks to Bill DeVille and Charlie Parr for sharing with us this afternoon.